there's so much to be said about building a business over time because like you said, there's so many different pieces of it that happen organic. Who would have told you like in 2013, you're like, I'm starting this blog and you're going to meet the president pretty soon. You'd say, what are you even talking about? Right? Like there's so many
Exactly.
different things along your journey that you just can't predict. And I think so many people do want to have that laid out. Give me the 5-year plan and we're going to follow it to the T and everything's going to happen the way that we think it's supposed to. And it just doesn't work out that way. So I really appreciate you sharing your story, but above all else, I love the mission that you have to help women make more money and, make a bigger impact because I totally agree with you that I think, women businesses tend to reinvest back into women-owned businesses and in our communities really well. So I think that's a really good point to make. But I do want to transition into learning more about your podcast. So everybody here loves to talk about, why did you start a podcast? Why did you transition from blogging? But I want to know more about, because I know that you said, you have your blog that still exists. It's out there, but you're not actively posting on it. So was that a decision that you made several years ago? Like, hey, I'm just going to let this live there and start a new brand. Tell me a little bit about how that worked.
So I would say, I had my second daughter in 2018. So I did go on to have another child. And I had contracting support in the business, but I didn't have any employees yet or anything. And at the same time, and this is things you can't predict when you start something like this. I also became known as like the Pinterest advertising person for about 4 years in the blogging world. Because of my ROI mindset on things, and everyone was going for the heyday of free Pinterest traffic. And I kept saying, I think paid ads is going to become very important on this platform. So I was one of the first to learn it. My course on that had started taking off in 2018 as well. So it got to the point where putting out the blog posts weren't serving my business. There was no direct ROI to me, and blog posts personally for me, because I can do stream of conscious really well. But I edit myself when I write. So a good blog post and worrying about the keywords and everything. And it was taking me 8+ hours that I just did not have. I had a newborn. I had this course taking off. And so at the time I stopped putting out blog posts because it just wasn't serving me. And then it turned into, I kind of grew in a weird way in hindsight. I didn't really realize I was doing it, but I made a choice that I was going to put my content creation focus behind the paid firewall. So I was always really good at collecting leads before the paid firewall, but I pretty much was hyper-focused that if you were coming to me, you were going to hand over your email or pay me money. Like that was it. And that's how I teach nowadays too. Those are the two primary modes of how I was going to work with you. So then I would take people on my email list, and for about 2 years, how I really cultivate it was I would write, and it's funny because these emails would take me almost as long as a blog post and yet get seen by less people and only went out once. So, but what it did was email is a great way to grow relationships. And I knew probably about a year into that. So probably mid 2019, end of 2019, I kept thinking I need to have a podcast. Like I knew a talking medium would be great for me, but bandwidth was a huge issue. And I also knew that while I was growing a really great email list of engaged, an engaged community there, I was still missing out where I was writing all these great emails and they were only getting seen. So some of those we did end up repurposing into blog posts once I started realizing that, but that was really all I could manage to put out for content. And I put so much into my paid courses. And when you put out good products, you get good referrals. So I was fortunate in the sense that I spent all my energy pouring into my students, and then the referrals just kept coming. So it wasn't hard for me to sell. Then I decided I was no longer going to do Pinterest advertising. I just got totally burned out after 4 years, and I was really disconnected from the bigger mission. I started redefining mom to help women, working women. And I'm like, now I'm teaching Pinterest ads. Like what? This is so to me. And I just really, impact is very important to me. And during the pandemic, I had one of those, I thought I was handling the pandemic fine. I really did. I was like, this is great. I love being home. This is like, my life doesn't change that much. I just don't have to travel. I'm not stressed out. About 9 months into the pandemic, I went through some sort of weird depression, and I told my husband after we had just built a house so that I had an office to work in during the pandemic, I'm going to blow up my biggest revenue stream. And he was like, that's kind of crazy. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm going to do it anyways. And luckily it worked out. But through doing that and coming up with the new mission of how I was going to make an impact, that I knew now is the time to podcast. So it was kind of like blogging was how I did it initially. Then it was a heavy focus on my email list. And then it was, okay, I need to get back out from the paid firewall and really start attracting people in a bigger medium. And podcasting is also a great way. I've always had a pretty solid network. I've always joined programs, and I learned that in corporate. So I just kind of came into my business. But podcasting, wow, it totally opens your network up, because not only I get pitched all day long, but it's just when you get to talk to other people and interview them, and then
Right.
it's like their network opens up, and then they have shows that you can get on, and it's a great way to grow.